Welcome to Dramatic Pause, a Rose Theater podcast. In today's episode, we will be talking to Christy Hernandez, the sound engineer at the Rose Theater. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dramatic Pause, a Rose Theater podcast. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, our guest for this episode is Christy Hernandez, the sound design and engineer for our premium show, Disney Descendants. Christy, would you do us the pleasure of introducing yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Christy, obviously. And I am the sound designer and engineer for the Rose Theater. So I do anything that you might hear when you go to the show. I also put mics on actors and make sure that they can hear everything they need to hear on stage. And yeah, that's what I do.
That's really cool. What made you want to be a sound designer? I guess that's a really good place to start, just kind of figuring out, how did you get to where you are?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, in high school, I was in show choir, and I loved it a lot. But really quickly came to understand that I wasn't very talented in the singing part of life or in the dancing part of life. I think I did it just because I liked the music, and I did maybe one theater thing my senior year. I helped build a set. And then I went to college and I was like, well, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a French teacher because my French teacher in high school was amazing and I wanted to be just like him. Um, and because I loved the language and I was really good at it. But part of me really wanted to still do something creative. And on a whim, I went to the head of the head of the department at Missouri Southern, of the theater department, and we spoke. And he's like, at the end of the year, you're gonna become a theater major. You're gonna like it. You look like a person that would love and enjoy theater. And no joke, 3 months into the program, I dropped my major and I became a theater major. And then I was like consumed. So everything I did was for the theater and I learned every single aspect of design. I did every single aspect of design. And then when I got here to the Rose, I was hired as a swing apprentice, which means that I could do lighting, I could do props one day, I could do set construction one day, and then I could do sound one day. And that day I decided to do or the day I got assigned to do sound, the director of lighting and sound was really impressed with my work. And so he asked me if I was more interested in sound. And I was like, I mean, I love every aspect. And he's like, well, I think you have some knack to this. So let's build you up. And so I really, a lot of the things I've learned have been at the Rose. Um, so yeah. So I don't know if anything, nothing made me want to be a sound designer. I think it just like fell into place and it just feels right. You know what I'm saying?
No, I completely understand. And it's kind of you took a detour from your original like French teaching to where you are now. And it's really cool how you described how you kind of took different steps and you tried different things until you found the one that kind of really fit well with you. And I think that's an amazing thing to do because you were able to kind of test multiple grounds before you were like, yeah, this is me.
Yeah, and I think that's very important for anybody wanting to do theater. Even if you're an actor or a dancer, you like being in the chorus. It's always good to try different things because obviously we all love theater for a reason, and you never know, you might be multi talented in it. So like I really love lighting, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So I would just say people shouldn't like just put themselves in a bubble. Like I'm not just a sound designer. Um, I enjoy multiple parts of theater.
That's yes, I agree. That's also a very important aspect to remember, and just like you said, kind of get out of your comfort zone and try different things. Um, Christy has been in numerous productions here at the Rose. She's done Winnie the Pooh, Dragon Love Tacos. She's done Matilda the musical, and then currently Disney Descendants. So she is a very important person in just every aspect of production with the Rose. So we're very grateful to have you, Christy.
With that, can you talk about what it's like you're running a day in a show? Like, for example, Descendants, can you kind of explain why sound plays an important role in just kind of the atmosphere that it creates on stage and in the entire theater?
For sure. So a day in Descendants. So I get to the theater about an hour and a half before the actors do. Sorry, that was my email. And I put batteries on mics, and I get those all ready for the actors to put on and stuff. Now, at the Rose, actors put on their own mics, so all I have to do is set it out for them, and they know what to do. And then we have this thing called mic check. And this is a time for me to turn on each mic individually on for each actor. So I'll call their name, and then they'll come up and they'll start saying some lines, and then they'll sing. And it's what I'm testing at this point is levels, and to make sure that everything sounds the way we need it to sound for the show. And that's something that's what makes sound so different than any other like aspect of design or of at least microphones do, is that it changes every day. You know, you can come into a show on Saturday and come into a show on Sunday, and it's two completely different shows when you're talking about microphones and sound effects and stuff like that, because you know some levels change on the fly. And um it's it's very heads on, like a listening game. So it's all about listening and setting the levels the way we want it to. Also, depending on where actors put their microphones, the way that we filter the sound that they give us is different. So yeah, does that make? Did I answer that? I don't know
You
if I
did,
answered
yes.
that.
No, you did. You did great. It's I like how you started with like how you got there an hour before the actors, and just kind of explain a little bit more about just how little details make a huge difference. Like you said, the placement of mics, and just overall it just comes together.
Yeah, it then some days are, you know, harder than other days. Sometimes you go see the show and maybe an actor's microphone dies on stage, and that's the scariest thing to do
Yeah,
because
that
there's
sounds
nothing you can do.
terrifying. Yeah,
Like
I was like,
when a
that
mic
sounds terrifying.
what?
I was like, yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, when a microphone dies on stage, you're just like, all right, actor. And I tell them all before, I'm like, you know, if it dies, it happens. It's live theater. Like mistakes happen. And that's why we're not, you know, movies. Because if we were, like, that thrill is gone. Not saying I don't like movies. I love movies, but it's just a different media. So, you know, I tell them, I'm like, if you all of a sudden know that you're not being heard, speak loud and project. And sometimes maybe if you're project enough, another microphone will pick you up. It happens. It's something we deal with every day, and obviously we try to take steps to prevent it, but some
Like
days
you
are
said,
just weird.
talking about weird days and just some of those like little hiccups that come along the way, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as a sound designer and engineer?
um so one of the biggest challenges is, I'd like to think that everyone's constantly learning. And so um finding the way you want to do things and still be flexible enough to understand that design and theater is a collaborative art. So even if you have your way of doing things, sometimes a director might come along that doesn't work that way. And so you have to adapt to, you know, and compromise to figure out the right way to go about a process. Each process is different, each show is different. Sometimes you have to deal with different designers, and that's always a challenge, not in a bad way, it's just different. So I think it's not really like challenges through sound, but challenges through working with other people, because that's what theater is. It's a collaboration. And so sometimes you get a lot of voices, and you want to make sure yours is heard, but you want to make sure you're listening too, if that makes any sense.
It does, and I like how you emphasize how it's important to be heard, but just as well as to listen. And I think that was really well said. And I
Cool.
hope that no one can hear dog barking in the background.
I can't.
Okay, so kind of flipping the coin of your biggest challenge, what are some of the things that you love the most about your job?
I love
Not
how
to
do I
put you
say
on the
this?
spot.
Right. So no. So there is this moment when you've read the script, I've read the script, whatever, and I've made my sound cue list and all that stuff is pretty like, I don't know, it's paperwork. That's the part where I'm like, I mean, it's kind of designed, but it's paperwork and I don't like doing it. But then there's this moment when you're actually designing the show where you're actually finding these sound effects, or you're finding this music, or you're making this music, or making the sound effects, and then you get it right, and you finally hear what you've been like hearing in your mind the whole time that you've read this script. And you're able to tell a story, and you're finding the story that's in the script is always the most fun for me, and it's definitely the most rewarding when all the sounds come together, or like in the middle of tech when sounds happen, and lighting and sound are in the right page together, and our resident lighting designer, Matt Benish, we work really well together. And so anytime that our sounds, like my sound and his lights, go on stage at the exact same time, and it's perfect and it looks really good, like there's nothing better than that moment. Which is why I do what I do. um Another thing, it's like once we're in performances, the reaction of our audience, especially our youth audience, is so very important. Anytime I see like someone dancing on the aisle, which during COVID it wasn't very fun to see people running up and down the aisles, but like any other time, like dancing in the aisle and like responding to what they see on stage, that's really important. And anytime an audience leaves and they're discussing um the things we were wanting them to discuss, that's important, and that makes it worth it. Like that makes the boring parts worth it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so it's just kind of seeing it come together, especially in collaboration with the other components of the production. That sounds amazing. I mean, I cannot imagine what it's like to just see it for the first time. To see, like you said, if lights and sound come together at the same time, to just see it kind of sandwich and see it together. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the
That's
best
really
parts of the
cool.
job.
Like you said, if I had to do paperwork, but then I saw that, I would also think it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with paperwork.
It's
It's just one
paperwork.
of the more boring parts of the
Yeah.
job, I guess. I'd rather be doing things.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I know that you briefly mentioned a couple of different pieces and tips of advice for people trying to become sound engineers. But what overall would you want youth and teens and young adults and anyone listening to kind of know about becoming a sound engineer and working in that part of production?
So, if you want to be a sound engineer or any sort of engineer, actually, the most important thing is to always be curious. So, always try to figure out why something works, how it works, you know, and if something went wrong, how would you fix it? Because that's really all I do. It's um, make things work the way I want them to work. So, I'll have to come up with a solution to something. If so, this is where the difference happens. So, a sound designer can just think outside the box and be like, I want this sound to do this and come from here and do this. And a sound engineer has to be like, okay, this is what the sound designer wants. How do I make it happen? And so, if you want to be an engineer, just ask questions and try to answer them, and learn how to troubleshoot. If something's broken, like at home, like your TV, like not going to the right input or anything like that, like just try to fix it and read manuals. I'm a very big nerd and I love to read manuals. And you learn a lot through just like this deconstructing things and putting them back together. Yeah. So if you like any of those things, like you're gonna be successful. And if you don't like them, don't try to fit yourself into a job that you won't enjoy. If that makes any sense.
No, it does. And I was gonna say something and I just completely left my brain, which is lovely. I was just gonna say I liked how you mentioned asking questions and just being involved in like the process of breaking things down and then repairing them and getting them back to kind of a similar structure. And I think that's wonderful. Oh, I think it was reading manuals. That's what I was going to say. I think that's the first time I've ever heard anyone be like, yes, read the manuals. Like that is key. And I absolutely love that, because I think it is very important to kind of have a solid foundation and understanding what you're doing. And I'm glad that you made that comment.
Well, okay, let me be like completely honest. I'm not gonna say that every time I get new equipment, I read the manual, but anytime my equipment stops working, I will like go through manuals and manuals and manuals to make sure I got it right. Also, the internet's your friend. There's a lot of like different groups out there that are strictly for sound people. There is one called Audio Student on Facebook, and I'm part of it. And that's a big important thing if you want to become anything in life, is realize that you're always a student. Even if you're educating other people, you can learn from other people. Even if they don't know as much as you do in that particular field, it doesn't mean that they don't know something you don't know. So I think that's just like an important just life lesson I've learned here at the Rose, is you're always a student.
Just the continuous learning.
Yep, it's important.
Well, thank you so much, Christy, for just coming on and just talking about yourself and your job and how you got there. I really do appreciate you coming on. If anyone really wants to check out this amazing lighting and sound duo that Christy was talking about further down in the podcast, just please buy tickets for Disney Descendants. It's running from September 10th to October 10th of this year, 2021. So feel free to go on our website and check that out so that you can kind of see in person what Christy was talking about.
And come say hi to me. I'm going to be at the booth. I always just sit there.
Yes, she will wave if need be, but I really do appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.